Hello, what's up guys, welcome back to my channel, and for today's video we'll be looking at the Grand Mafia, specifically freight trucks, and I will teach you how to set up your freight truck so that it will be harder for your opponents to defeat you and you'll be able to keep most of your loot. Of course, for freight trucks, combat stats matters a lot, so if you don't really have a lot of combat stats, it will still be very difficult for you to prevent players from attacking you. And the thing about freight trucks, so let me just show you right here. So for freight truck, there are different rarities, and I would skip past that. I have another video on freight trucks, but of course the higher the rarity of freight truck is, from elite and above, it will definitely have a high chance of getting attacked. If you're a weaker player, make sure that your freight trucks are not as high in rarity, or send your freight trucks out later in the day itself before the reset comes in, so that people will have their hijacks all used up. So for freight trucks, there are a couple of things that can help you to make your setup stronger. So of course, most importantly is have all your strongest enforcer for the stronger freight truck, of course, with your UB, so that it gives you more combat buffs, and also deploy your luxury car and also your helicopter so that it will be stronger. So let's say this is my strongest luxury car and strongest setup. Then the next thing that you would have to take note of are your troops, on how do you deploy them. So how you deploy your troops, the amount is usually, I'll recommend a mixed troop composition, because if you only have a pure like bruiser, even with a player with very low combat stats, they're able to destroy your army with pure bikers if you deploy a pure bruiser or pure gorillas. So usually I recommend you to have a 3-3 formation, but how you can make your troop deployment even stronger is to take into consideration the formations, the combat formations that you are planning to deploy. So for example, the most common combat formation to deploy will be Hitman Square. So for Hitman Square, the Hitmans are in front, so you are vulnerable against bruisers. That is why many people have a 4-2-4 combination. So it's a 40-20-40, so 40% bruiser for 40% bikers. So if this is a Hitman Square, it will be quite a strong defense, because when players want to attack your hitman, they will send full bruisers. However, you got more bruisers and more bikers to take down their full attack of bruisers, so their damage wouldn't be as much as if you were to deploy a balanced 3-3-3 mixed type deployment for your freight trucks. So this also works the same if you got a bruiser square or bruiser wedge. The bruisers will be right at the front, so you might want to have a 2-4-4 combination. So bruiser will be 20%, hitman 40%, and bikers 40%, so that you're able to counter a full biker attack if they were to want to target towards your formation type. Of course, when you have deployed like a 4-2-4 and you're in Hitman Square, the opponent have no choice but to send maybe like a full Hitman raid or full bikers raid, because the advantage that they have from using a full bruiser attack would diminish quite a bit. So this will allow your opponents to be more confused, and they have to think more on how they can defeat your freight truck unit composition. So this is the first thing that I would highly recommend, the most important thing on how you should set up your freight trucks. The first thing to never do is to use a single troop unit composition. And the second thing to take note is to make sure to use your strongest enforcers and your best super weapons, best luxury cars, and etc. So because you have two different freight trucks that you can send, so over here I got another one that's just completed. The second set of freight trucks, so what you do for the second freight truck is the same thing, but it's just slightly weaker because you don't have your underboss in it, so you are losing out on like equipment bonuses. And just make sure to equip the best weapon you have. Yeah, make sure you just don't clash with your first freight truck. And the second thing to take note is that you can also use crew size to buff up your freight truck unit, so that you're able to send a larger army to defend your freight trucks. But there are some downsides to using crew sizes. The first one is that if you have forgotten to use your crew size whenever you send out your freight truck, when your crew size goes back to the normal amount, your unit composition will not decrease accordingly. So if you send a crew size, let's say a 400,000 crew size, and you do a 3-3 composition, when it returns back to 300,000, the first 100,000 that will be cut off will be from your bruiser, so you'll be sending less a few amount of bruisers and a huge amount of hitmen and bikers. So that's what happened if your crew size wears out and you forgot to activate your crew size, or you forgot to change your unit composition once the crew size is out. And the next thing that we'll be looking at is hijacking. So hijacking is very straightforward. Just make sure to set your strongest combat stats to attack your opponent's freight trucks. And what is also good about attacking or hijacking your opponent's freight truck is that you're able to look at how their unit composition is. As you can see, this player has more bruisers compared to hitmen and bikers. So what would be good is to use a full biker attack. So I'll show you right now. Okay, so I have changed my unit attack to bikers, and let's see if I can win this. As you can see, you win the hijack because of how the unit composition is, and let us just see right here. Yeah, so as you can see, we have won the attack. And it's also a very clever approach for this person to use more bruisers followed by fewer hitmen and fewer biker. So this is another method that you can sort of like take, which is to bait your opponent in using a full biker raid, because obviously there's more bruisers up ahead. And with this, you have to have a really strong hitman attack, because you're essentially making your opponent have a full biker raid. And if you don't really have a strong hitman's attack, your opponent will capture your freight trucks. And as you can see, there's also hitman square at the right at the front. So this is really to have the hitmans to attack the bikers as quickly as possible, so that you're able to take down the biker. But overall, my stats still is better than this player. So fortunately enough, because my stats are better, I'm able to win the raid. But if your stats were quite similar, I would say that it is quite difficult to win this raid, or it's slightly harder for you to win this raid if you have weaker combat stats. This is the second way of how you can actually build your combat unit troop composition. So the first way that I've mentioned, the 4-2-4 formation for hitman square, is more of like a defensive thinking, where you are trying to protect your troops and also to kill more of your opponent's troops. And for this second method, is more of an offensive stance, where you want to bait your opponent to choosing one specific single troop attack, and you are aiming to capture or repel away your enemy attacking forces based on what you want them to send. And yeah, this is it for my video, and I hope you guys understand how you can build your freight truck defenses properly, and also how you can attack. But ultimately, a very big disclaimer is that you really have to have very good combat stats in order for you to have a bigger advantage. And of course, at least tier 4 or even tier 5 will give you a huge advantage in really winning your freight truck attacks. So this is it for my video, and if you enjoy my video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys again real soon for my next video.